Good morning, 4th Street.
Good morning.
We're going to turn out some of the lights so that you can see the photos a little better. And this first photo we have is Maggie and me on an airplane on our way. And we did not look this good at the end of the 2 weeks. I have to tell you, there is no picture on the plane coming home. We were very tired. But Maggie, I have to say, was going into the land of the unknown, much like I did in 2010 when I went on my first mission trip to Peru. And I knew a lot of the people that we were going to be meeting. And there they are, the other 24 people in our group, many of whom I had worked with in Peru, but Maggie had not. So I knew what kind of anticipation that Maggie had. In this group, there are doctors, nurses, lay people, because we also do a construction project as well as a medical clinic. And the very far side, next to the guy with the hat on, is our jefe, as we called him, Joe Kelly, and he is our front runner. He goes out and does all the legwork to get our mission trip set up. He makes sure we have a safe place to stay. He gets the contacts ready and where the clinics are going to be held. And in your bulletin today, you all have a Southwest Medical Aid. This is the very front page of their website. At the bottom is the website for Southwest Medical Aid, and underneath that is a website for just our trip to Ecuador, so that you can see more pictures and hear more about it. So, we went to Ecuador knowing that we would stay at a place called Schoenstatt. Excuse me when I have to change. This is where we stayed. It was a beautiful area, much like Manresa. If those of you who know what Manresa is, right up on Woodward and 16 Mile. This was a Catholic retreat center that also housed an orphanage and marriage retreats and other things, but also welcomed groups of people who were coming to Ecuador and needed a place to stay. It was bare bones. Except, as Randy noticed, we did have air conditioning. But do not ask us about the fans. That is a whole nother story. So we had our basic needs met in this beautiful area called Schoenstatt. It was a very peaceful place to gather at night after we had worked many long hours. We got up every morning at 5:30, left at 6:30 for devotions and breakfast, and then on to the clinics. But we had this peaceful place to come back to, and especially was this lovely chapel where we could hold services or just go and sit and pray. So here we are in this beautiful setting, and we are going to go out and set up clinics from the bare bones up. We had to take all of our medical supplies with us, so everybody had a suitcase, except for Maggie, full of medical supplies. New people don't have to carry a suitcase. The risk of this carrying the suitcase, and you don't ever want to take your own, is because the customs people might confiscate them. They may not like that you're bringing medical supplies to their country, because that might make them feel like they can't provide for their own. Truth be known, Ecuador does have a good medical system, except for its poor people. The health department doesn't often have the medicines they need to give the people after they've been prescribed medications. So 26 of us had about 35 suitcases full of medical supplies. And I'll tell you, there was some creativity in this group. We had a wheelchair donated, so one of the girls sat in a wheelchair like she had to be in a wheelchair in order to get it through customs. Another person donated a bunch of crutches. Guess what your golf bags are good for? Crutches and canes and other things went into the golf bag. So we were very blessed to have all these supplies that we were going to need to set up these clinics. Now you've seen where we were. We were in Guayaquil. Guayaquil is a cosmopolitan city. It's the place most people go before they go off to the Galapagos for their tours and their diving. This was not to be the case. All this wonderful buildings and services was not to be the case for the people that we were going to be dealing with. We would cross the river every day to Duran. Duran is a very poor area of Guayaquil. It's an invasion community. An invasion community is people who have moved in from the outer regions of Ecuador expecting that life is going to be better in the city. These folks had no Running water, no electricity in most cases. Their water was delivered by a truck, and it was not drinkable. It got delivered in a blue barrel that would be placed outside of their home, and you will see some of those in some of the other pictures. For the most part, these homes are built of sugarcane. They're on stilts because they flood during the rainy season. And that little walkway is how they get into their house. And underneath, you can't see it in this picture, but underneath there's often a hammock where they will be in the to get away from the hot afternoon sun. The clinic was right across the street from that house, and you can see our blue barrel on the top is where the water was. If we didn't have water in that barrel, we couldn't flush our toilet, nor could we wash our hands, and never could we drink it. So we had lots of bottled water for us to drink. But this is the building that our first clinic was held. We spent most of our Sunday dividing up the materials that had been brought in the suitcases, and we took with us everything we needed. Medicines, bandages, stethoscopes, blood pressure cuffs, everything you need to run a clinic was in our suitcases. We would arrive by bus every morning to a crowd of people waiting for us. The only reason this crowd looks so small is because the gatekeepers, thank goodness for the gatekeepers, would only allow in enough people to fill the chairs. The rest of the people stood outside the gate and waited their turn. This particular clinic was also at a school, so we saw all the children at the school during this clinic time as well. This particular lady really moved me to think about how good we have it in this country. She is 64 years old. Now, she may look a little older than that in this picture, but her daughter, pushing the wheelchair, brought her to the clinic for pain medicine and blood pressure medications, the things she couldn't get in the health department. This lady lives in the house behind her in this picture. So her daughter wheeled her across in her wheelchair with bicycle tires on it because of the dirt roads. She has a fractured hip. Her surgery is scheduled for January. Can you imagine having a fractured hip and having to wait until January? This is August that we're here. So she came to our clinic for some pain meds and some blood pressure medications to help her get through until she could have her surgery. She had to share the road with the cows. This was a really exciting moment when the cowboys came racing down the road to gather up the cows that had wandered out from the fields and surrounded the area. So we had a lot of fun with that. One of the things that Maggie and I did while we were there, along with Evelyn, another nurse, was we did eye exams for all the children in the school, 220 some children we tested for vision problems. This was the little kindergarten class. As you can tell, some of them are interested and some of them aren't. But here's Maggie and Evelyn explaining to them how they had to tell us which way the direction of the E went. So that was an exciting time. And the children were as sweet as could be. Now, yes, they have uniforms on, and yes, this is sort of a private school. It costs $10 a month to go there. The people at this clinic were very, very happy for whatever services we could offer, whether it be medications or eyeglasses. This young lady was the 5th grade school teacher who had difficulty seeing from her prescription glasses, and so we fitted her with a new pair of prescription glasses that made it easier for her to see. And she was so happy to have these new glasses. From this clinic, held in one section of Duran, who we thought were rather poor, we went to another section of Duran called Arbolito, which we were told was a poorer section of town. Even though it seemed like they had better housing, they still didn't have water, they still didn't have the necessary medical things without going quite a distance to the one clinic that was available to them. And that one clinic had specialists, but the specialists were only there on certain days, and they had to have appointments to go there. This is a difficult picture for me to talk about. I don't know if you can see how far back that line goes, but this line was on both sides of the gate. So we would get off the bus, and we were treated like we were some sort of rock stars, as Maggie said, like we had some special powers. These people would wave to us. They would call out to us. They would touch us like if just touching us would make them better. These people sometimes came back 2 and 3 days in order for it to be their turn to be seen. For the most part, they were pleasant. Sometimes they got a little grumpy. Sometimes there'd be a little tiff if they thought somebody got a number ahead of them, because we would pass out numbers, so we'd have some sort of control over how many people we saw. They would line up to tell the nurse what their main complaint was. And their main complaint for the adults would be colds, flu, diabetes, allergies, sore throats, headaches, no appetite, stomach pain, back pain, nausea. And we would try to treat them the best we could, and supply them with the medications that we had with us. When we ran out of certain medications because we couldn't find the other box that had them, we went to the pharmacy to get some more. We could not even buy the basic over-the-counter medications like Tylenol and Motrin without a prescription. This is what these people are up against when they try to get things to help treat themselves. The country does not want people treating themselves at home. They want them to go to the clinics, but yet they don't provide them with the clinics to go to. These people would line up for either the doctor or the eyeglasses. The biggest complaint among the eyeglasses, I can't see to read my Bible. Now remember, these folks don't have lights in their homes like we do. So we tried to encourage them to read their Bible in the morning so that they would have the natural light. But we gave out thousands of pairs of reading glasses, and they were so excited to get them so that they could see the fine print. These are some of our doctors. The lady you can't see quite so well in the distance with the gentleman with the pink striped shirt on is Del Andres. She is our main doctor who goes with us on most of our trips and helps to set up the medical situation. The other young lady is a physician's assistant. She and her husband, also physician's assistant, were there to help see these patients. This is our pediatrician, Patricia. She was also our contact person for this particular trip. She happens to live in New York, but used to live in Ecuador. So she helped set up a lot of the services that we needed. I'm backing up one picture because you will see there's also a third person at the desk, because we had to have translators in order to know what these people were saying. So we were blessed with young people in the area who could speak both English and Spanish, and some of our own travelers could speak both English and Spanish, and my Spanish improves every time I go on one of these trips. So it would take a while to get the idea of what was wrong with these folks. We treated everybody. Sometimes the moms needed to be treated as well as the kids, and so they would have to wait, see the kid, and then they would go in another spot for the mom to be seen. In total, at the first clinic, we saw 1,300 people in 1 week, 778 for medicine purposes and 500 for glasses. The second clinic, we saw 753 patients for medical reasons and about 500 again for glasses. The biggest thing that the folks wanted were vitamins for their children so they could do better in school. We quickly ran out of vitamins. We had a huge stash I never thought we would run out of, but we did. This young lady is one of our interpreters, and she was holding this precious little baby. And this baby was just laughing and giggling, and he wasn't sick, but his other sibling had to come for a cold or something. And while it sounds like all we did was work, we did have one episode of about a day and a half where we went to the beach on the weekend that we didn't have to work. And later, all the pictures are going to be shown afterwards during coffee hour. The pictures will be running continuously, and you'll get to see us at our whale watching trip, which was very much fun for all of us. Every day we were treated to lunch. At the first clinic, it was a gentleman and his wife who cooked lunch for us. At the second clinic, it was at a house where the young people who were there to help the children of the church would prepare our lunch. So every day we would walk down. Oh, I'm sorry, I forgot about this picture. I'll go back to that one. Every day we would walk down a long dirt road to this lunch that was prepared. And we had a lot of fun. along the way, talking about our patients and what we had done for the day. And this particular patient, wrong way. This particular patient is one of Maggie's favorites. This young man came in, I don't remember what his biggest complaint was when he came in, but it was noticed his crutches, the old ones in the back, had no padding of any kind. And this young man had calluses on his hands like you wouldn't believe, from walking on these crutches all of his life. He had his leg amputated because his one leg was shorter than the other at birth, and so they amputated it because they didn't know any other way of fixing it then. So he got one of our taken in the golf bag pair of crutches, and he was so happy to have just those cushions on his hands, so his hands didn't hurt when he walked anymore. So just little things like that made a big difference in the lives of these people. So we made a drop in the bucket difference for about 2,000 people that we will never forget, and maybe they won't forget us either. So I'd like to close with a prayer from Prayers Without Borders. As I walk down dusty roads or busy concrete boulevards, help me, God, to take time to see in the eyes of the other, to recognize the other in order to respect. As I encounter many peoples, many races, help me to appreciate the hand of the other, to recognize those hands that create and build in order to work together. As my path calls me to various places, help me to learn to walk together with others on paths that lead to peace, recognizing that by walking with others, we work together. We learn to recognize ourselves in the other, recognize and appreciate our differences, and begin to recognize what love is all about. Thank you.